Do 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 do. Saturday, it's Saturday. Fantasy baseball, Saturday baseball. Yes, it's me. Sometimes I like to sing in the morning on a Saturday morning, and you know how we do it here. We like to wait for the sound to come through the chat room before we get started. So I'm just going to be silent for a second and wait for the chat room. Wait for it to come through. There it is. Look at this. Whoop-de-doo. It's us. So if you're there and if you're in the chat room, and I'll say this again if I see a lot of guests in the chat room, we've been contacted a couple times by people saying that they're having trouble getting the chat. So what I want you to do is, if you're on a laptop computer, if you're on a laptop computer, hold down Control and then tap F5. It's that row right at the top of your keyboard for a hard refresh. And if that doesn't work, close out your window and reopen your window. We've had a couple people tell us that they're having trouble getting the chat room. And really, I just updated the website. We updated several plugins. So if you're having trouble getting to the chat room and you can hear me now, which, by the way, I will repeat this again later if I see a bunch of guests in the chat room. I do see a bunch of guests in the chat room, but maybe people are just getting signed in and stuff. So if you hear me and you can't get to the chat room, and if you're on a laptop, hold down Control, tap F5, and it should do a hard refresh of your browser. And if it doesn't work, close your browser down and restart it over again. If you're having trouble on your phone, restart your phone. We just did some updates, so there's that. Now, I told Pesky Danny to come here, and there he is, Captain Danny. That's right, we're starting off with the Pesky Dodgers right from the get-go, and I'd just like to say hello to everybody. Teresa and Eddie Heckman, great morning to you. Tommy Johnson, Rotorius, Chris from Cambridge, which, by the way, leads me to tell you it's the weekend and it's time for a birthday. Chris from Cambridge likes to let us know whose birthday it is, and today it happens to be somebody very good, Tim Raines Jr. He's 45 today. Happy birthday, Tim Raines Jr. Is that the same as Tim Raines?
Yes.
That's the same as Tim Raines. Okay. Now, good morning to everybody in the chat room. Mal Palantina, SM King Turd and the Turd family, Rotorius, Pesky Danny, Lovely Penny, Daniel Ferrara the Hulkster, Data Premier, Chris Gallo, Big Al on the prowl. Great to see you in the chat room. Hopefully Laura will come soon. I like to say her name because then it channels her and she shows up then right after that. So, the Dodgers, this is no good. Well, the Dodgers survived yesterday. They won 10-9. Now they have a 5-game lead in the National League West over the Diamondbacks and the Padres. Corbin Carroll homered, and Clayton Kershaw immediately exited the game with trainers after only 27 pitches. So Kershaw was removed from the game because of left big toe pain. He was only able to get through 1+ innings. He surrendered 3 earned runs on 3 hits and a walk. He is going to undergo further testing to determine if he's dealing with any structural damage. And his status for his next start is uncertain. And as King Turd points out in the chat room, he says, good chance Kershaw threw his last regular season pitch. It might be over for him. Max Scherzer, and Justin Verlander all at once. The oldest one easily has the most left. That's Justin Verlander, but he's close too. And these guys are arguably the top 3 pitchers post-steroid era. And yes, that is arguable because you got other guys in there too. But I will say, look, the Kershaw, Scherzer, and JV, Justin Verlander, all 3 of them, excellent pitchers. And I hope that it's not the regular season game for Kershaw. And if it is the last regular season pitch, does that also mean it's his last playoff pitch? Because he's not good in the playoffs. I don't know. Think about that, because if they can't keep him healthy for the regular season, I doubt they're going to try to rush him back for the playoffs, because he's no good during the playoffs. Anyway, manager Dave Roberts says that he's dealing with a bone spur in his toe, and he's preparing for a possible injured list move. And Dave Roberts also says that he'd be shocked if the Dodgers don't make a move for him to the injured list, or another. Okay, let me just quote him. Dave Roberts, quote, "I'd be shocked if we don't make an IL move or two." All right, so that's something. That means Kershaw isn't the only one going to the Phantom DL.
Laura's here.
There you are, Laura. I told Lenny, as soon as I say hi to Laura, she'll come. Hello to Laura and Mary. Great to see you both. Chris from Cambridge says, one last night for the Dodgers to acquire Johnny Cueto. And then Turd says that he thinks Kershaw will return for the playoffs and he'll get piggybacked. They'll piggyback him. Big L on the prowl. It's fantasy baseball. My question is, who's next in their rotation? It looks like a MASH unit. That's true. Everybody's injured, right? Okay, so Turd says they're lucky Bobby Miller is coming around. Anyway, back to this game. The Arizona Diamondbacks came out. They sold, and part of this I think is because Dodgers fans can get to Arizona so quickly. It's just a few hour drive from Los Angeles to Arizona, right, to the Diamondbacks Chase Field. But the Diamondbacks sold nearly 170,000 tickets for their 4-game series against the Dodgers, with sellouts yesterday and today, and I'm sure tomorrow too. I can't imagine why tomorrow wouldn't be sold out. The Diamondbacks trailed the Dodgers by 4 games in the National League West. Those pesky-ass Dodgers. But let's talk about the wonderful and talented Corbin Carroll, who went 2 for 4 with a double, a solo homer, a walk, a stolen base, and 2 total runs scored. He extended his hitting streak to 9 games, a span in which he's gone 12 for 36, a .333 batting average, 5 home runs, and 11 RBI. His steal was his first since August 7th. But in the month of August, Corbin Carroll is batting .278 with 10 homers, 22 RBIs, 4 triples, and 1 double in 26 games. It's encouraging, right? Now, what are we going to do about Corbin Carroll next year? Clearly, he's very much pissed off a lot of fantasy managers. So, not counting the people that got ripped off by Corbin Carroll this year. Or maybe, but do tell me in the chat room, when you tell me where you're going to draft Corbin Carroll next year, I want you to let me know if you did draft him in 2024 or not. Because, look, this happens in fantasy all the time. You get screwed by a player and then you just don't like the guy anymore. Now, some of these players, it takes several years to get pissed off enough to leave them behind. And Byron Buxton is a perfect example. I still haven't given up on Byron Buxton because he's too exciting to give up on. And every year his ADP varies so much, right? So here's what we have. Where are you drafting Corbin Carroll next year, especially when he finishes the season so good? Where do you think his ADP is going to be? Now, we're talking about a guy who had an excellent rookie season. His sophomore year has been absolutely horrific. Up until just a couple months ago, he was not doing anything. He started to hit a little by little, but the month of August, he's been excellent. So where are we going to draft Corbin Carroll? Turd says he's still top 20. Now, Turd, I have to imagine you have 0 shares of Corbin Carroll. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you have shares. I mean, look. Turd says he gets the Austin Riley exemption. And yes, I agree with you on that. Like, he did prove his skills, and according to the great Ron Chandler, once a player demonstrates skills, he holds those skills. They don't just go away. I mean, you might get injured and you might get old, but those skills are still a part of that player. And how many times have we seen these rookies come out and do so good until the pitchers start figuring them out? And that's why we came up with the term sophomore slump. And it's not always because the player isn't willing to work on his downfall, his faults. But the fact is, the pitchers start to get used to you. They figure you out. They look at video all off season, and there's been plenty of rookies who have done very well and just never did it again, right? Okay, Turd does say he has no shares of Corbin Carroll. 100% rookie year shares, which that's why, to me, you're telling me that you're going to give him the Austin Riley exemption, and he's still a top 20 player for you. Malpal says Carroll is currently earning $20. Now, is that a top 20 player? No, the top 20 players are probably earning $30, right? Malpal, what's the highest earnings? I guess it would be somebody like Bobby Witt or whatever. How much? Who's got the highest earnings? And tell me what they've earned so far. Because a $20 player seems to me that they would be like in the top 5 rounds, maybe. Anyway, I love the question. Chris Gallo owns Carroll in a few leagues. I want to know what you're willing to pay for Carroll next year. And I don't want to talk about dynasty or keeper leagues. I just want to talk about, leagues where you drafted him in the first round and you've been stuck with him all season because you were right not to give up on him. I mean, how can you give up on your first round pick? You just got to keep putting him in your lineup, and that could really, see what I'm saying? You start to dislike the guy personally, and you just say to yourself, like, I'm not drafting this guy again, no matter what he does. But also, another thing to consider is that no matter how bad Carroll did, right, in the first 4 months of the season, if he ends the season as strong as he's doing right now, his ADP is going to be shot right back up to the ceiling because everybody's going to forget what he did to start the season. And that only goes for people who don't own Corbin Carroll. The great King Turd is going to pull up his monthly numbers. I really like monthly numbers. That's great. So overall, on the season, he's batting .227 with a .314 on base percentage. 18 homers, 61 RBIs, 98 runs scored, 22 steals, 17 doubles, and 12 triples over 131 games. And Malpal says that's worth $20. Guest Stevie O, great to see you. Turd is accurate, he says. Carroll's ADP will still be 15 to 20, but Stevie O is not drafting him that high. 0 shares. You must have Corbin Carroll on your team this year. Data Premier says he only took him in Dynasty, 2nd overall. Are you keeping him next year? I guess Dynasty you get to keep a lot more players than just the regular keeper league, so I'm sure you have to keep him. Stevie O says he's not drafting Tucker in the first 2 rounds after his injury, and he tanked him in 2 leagues. I'm still drafting Tucker. Okay. All right, moving on. So we're still waiting on Malpal to tell us the highest earned players. Okay, Malpal says Bobby Witt has earned $52. Otani's earned $51, and Judge has earned $49. So a $20 player, we're talking about like round 5, 6, 8, those types of rounds. So Corbin Carroll, worth $20, still going to be drafted in the first round, according to our chat room input, and especially if he ends the season well, he's going to be drafted in the first round. I'm going to have to pass on him if his price doesn't go down substantially. Otani, now, speaking of Otani, who has earned $51 in fantasy money this season, Otani becomes the first 43 homers and 43 stolen bases player in baseball history. He just keeps breaking the record, and he's going to continue to, with a month left in the season, by the way. Right, Pesky Danny? Right. Ohtani's on pace for 51 homers and 51 stolen bases, and no player has ever had that combination in a season. His 43 is already the highest total a player has reached in both home runs and stolen bases in a season. And the most stolen bases by one player in an MLB season when he also hit at least 43 home runs is Ohtani. 43 homers, 43 stolen bases. Alfonso Soriano hit 43 homers and stole 41 bases. And there's a list of other guys that came close. Not even close, though. Alfonso Soriano is the only one in the 40s. So we're talking 43 homers and 40 stolen bases. Only 2 players in baseball history have reached that 40-40 mark. And then it tanks all the way down to Larry Walker, who hit 33-43. I kind of missaid that a little bit. The only 2 hitters in baseball history to hit 43 homers and steal at least 40 bases is Ohtani and Soriano. Alfonso Soriano did it in 2006. And there's a list of other guys that were able to hit 43 homers and steal Larry Walker, 33 bases. Hank Aaron, 31 bases. Jeff Bagwell, 31 bases. Yelich, 43 homers, 30 stolen bases. Barry Bonds, 43 homers, 29 stolen bases. And then you have Canseco, who did it twice with 43 homers and 29 stolen bases. And then Ohtani in 2021 was able to hit 43 homers and steal 26 bases. SM King Turd says, wow, he was thinking that Bobby Witt would go for close to $50 when we were talking about him the other day, and he actually might. Well, he's earned 52, right? So that is impressive. The Kansas City Royals, who are having one of the greatest turnarounds in baseball history after losing 106 games last season, suffered a huge blow with Vinny Pasquantino diagnosed with a broken thumb, sidelining him for 6 to 8 weeks. This guy is a big loss for the Kansas City Royals, who are fighting for the number 1 spot in the American League Central. He had 19 home runs and almost 100 RBIs already this season. So any of you, Vinny Pasquantino, you better get a replacement. Entering yesterday, Reynaldo Lopez was one of the league's best pitchers over his last 12 starts. He had a 2.24 ERA, and he kept it rolling yesterday with 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, and 13 swings and misses. 7 of those swings and misses were on his slider. Believe it or not, yesterday was the 3rd time this year that the Mariners have scored at least 5 runs in the first inning. So here's the trivia of the day. Ready for this? The genius of the day. Yesterday was the 3rd time this year that the Mariners scored at least 5 runs in the first inning. Another team has scored 5 runs in the first inning 4 times this season. What team has scored 5 runs in the first inning 4 times this season? That's the genius of the day, bitches. I can only say that because Eddie doesn't have his grandkids here today, and I just assume everyone else is listening knows what bitches are. Okay, Lenny didn't laugh, so you know it's not funny, because he laughs at pretty much everything I say. So, are you awake?
I'm listening.
Why aren't you laughing at my jokes?
I am. Just listening.
All right, well, laugh at my jokes.
Okay.
Blake Snell has a 117 opponent batting average over his last 10 starts. It's the lowest batting average over a 10-start span by a Giants pitcher since 1900. All right, which team has scored 5 runs in the first inning 4 times this season? Thank you, Big Al. Appreciate it, dude. Okay? Appreciate it. So, I'm waiting for some answers to the question, which team has scored 5 runs in the first inning 4 times this season. Most no-hit bids of 7 or more innings pitched since the start of 19 and including the playoffs. The Astros have done it 17 times. We're talking about no-hitters of 7 or more innings since 2019. The Astros have done it 17 times. The Padres come in second at 8 and the Yankees 7. There we go. Stevie O says the Yankees. Big Al on the Prowl says the Phillies. SM King Turd says the Dodgers. Eddie says the Yankees. And it's none of those teams. In fact, it's a team you would never guess. The Marlins. That's the genius of the day. Now, here's 2 tidbits I got from King Turd. Okay? Corey Seager hit his 199th career home run. With his 200th home run, Seager will become the 15th shortstop ever to 200, and the 3rd fastest ever, and the first ever left-handed hitting shortstop to reach 200 home runs. Who's calling, Leonard?
1 second, please. It's Chris from Cambridge.
It's Chris from Cambridge, so I'll be taking a phone call. This is a great tidbit by Turd.
Well, there's nothing like a good phone call on a Saturday.
How you doing, Chris?
Do you remember? We're going to go back in time 34 years ago today when Larry Anderson from the Astros was traded for Jeff Bagwell from the Boston Red Sox.
I don't remember that. I'm not even 34 years old.
I did. I remember. Best trade in history.
Just kidding.
Oh, but with that kind of lead in, I want to ask you on a weekend, who is your player to watch this weekend?
Well, it's got to be Corey Seager, right? I mean, that's who I'm talking about right this minute. You know, he just hit his 199th career home run. With his 200th home run, he's going to be the 15th shortstop ever to 200 home runs and the 3rd fastest ever. So, and he'll also be the first ever left-handed shortstop to reach 200 home runs in his career. So that's who I'm watching.
Atta girl. Good Saturday to you.
Thank you, Chris. All right. So, another thing about Corey Seager. This is also from Turd. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, and Corey Seager, they're the only 3 players who currently have 30 or more home runs in each of the last 3 seasons. There are 8 others who can achieve that with the 30 home run season this year. No other shortstops have a chance at 3 straight 30 or more home run seasons. So I do love it. Great question by Chris from Cambridge. Luckily, I had the Corey Seager thing handy because definitely he's 199. If he gets to 200, he's going to be in the record books, which he already should be in the record books. And he probably is. But anyway, so the Cubbies, too bad Unholy Toledo is not here. Now, I would like to repeat, if you're on a laptop and you can't see the chat room, hold down Control and tap F5. F as in Frank. F5. That will do a hard refresh of your browser page. And if that doesn't work, please close your browser and restart your computer and open it back up and it should work. We did some updates and we've had a couple people tell us they were having trouble getting the chat room. So hopefully that will help you. And believe me, if it doesn't work for you, we want you to reach out and let us know, because we love each and every one of you, and we appreciate every one of you coming to join us for baseball every day of the week at 9 a.m. Eastern. Back to the tidbits. The Cubbies have 80 runs in their last 8 games. That's their most runs in an 8-game span since 1935. Their only other seasons to have an 8-game span with 80 or more runs was in 1929 and 1930, and that's for Unholy Toledo, who was having trouble with the chat room, and that's why it reminded me to tell you how to fix it. Once again, we miss Unholy, but I know he does stuff on the weekends with his wife and family, so we don't blame him for not making it. The Cubbies also have won 10 of their last 13 games. Now let's talk about the Cleveland closer, Emmanuel Clase, picking up his 40th save of the season and 149th of his career. Maybe that's 150th of his career, because my next tidbit says nobody in Cleveland's franchise history has more saves than Emmanuel Clase, 150. He's only 26 years old. So how about that? Clase getting it done. Freddie Freeman, playing for the first time in 4 days with a broken finger, homered on the first pitch he saw last night. Here we go to your Orioles, Eddie, and Jackson Holiday. I know you were put something in there earlier, and I ignored it because I had a tidbit, and now I will go back over that stuff. So Jackson Holiday's second big league triple came in front of his dad, Matt Holliday, at Coors Field. Also, 40% of the Orioles rookies' hits in August have gone for extra bases. Now, something that Eddie Heckman pointed out in the chat room is that he returns to his old stopping ground. He laces RBI triple and win with Father Matt among friends and family in attendance. Holiday is thrilled to play anywhere in the majors, but the Rockies series must have been circled on the calendar because his Matt and his younger brother, Ethan, made the trip and were on the field and in the dugout during batting practice. Eddie thinks that's huge, but a lot of families go and see their kid, and I think it's great. Of course they went to see him in Colorado, right? Well, it's wonderful for the rookie, and it is interesting, I thought, to point out that 40% of the Orioles rookies' hits in August have gone for extra bases. Kyle Stowers, over his last 5 games, a .450 batting average, 800 slugging, a 1.276 OPS, and 6 RBIs. Now, he wasn't in the Marlins lineup yesterday against the Giants because he's a lefty, and also Blake Snell, who is the starting pitcher, is a lefty. So with him out, Derek Hill, Christian Pache, and David Hensley served as Miami's outfield trio. Eddie said it's a national holiday in the Heckman family today because it's the last day in August. And in 1969, they were on a family vacation to the Luray Caverns. The radio announcer kept saying it's the last day of August every few minutes. All right, so you turned it into a national holiday. The last day of August. A lot of hype in baseball for a guy hitting 168. Who we talking about? Is that Stowers? Francisco Lindor has a 27-game on-base streak. He is on pace to finish the season with 34 homers, 42 doubles, 110 runs, and 96 RBI. He is the best defensive shortstop in baseball, and he literally plays every single game. Right, Laura? Right, Big Al on the prowl? Oh, we're talking about Jackson Holiday. Yeah? A lot of hype. Well, you know, he's baseball royalty. What are you going to do, right? SM King Turd says the Giants might have a team that could compete next year if they can keep Blake Snell and make a run at Juan Soto. San Francisco Giants Bryce Eldridge, 19-year-old first base prospect. High A yesterday, had 2 doubles, 2 home runs, and a walk. Last 26 games in 118 plate appearances, he's batting .381 with 8 doubles, 10 home runs, and a 16% walk rate, a 21% strikeout rate. Jarren Duran is 8 for his last 11 in the first inning. His 20 leadoff extra base hits are the most by a Red Sox player in a season in the expansion era. He's definitely the best hitter in Boston right now. Even above, is he above their third baseman? What's his name? Devers. Jarren Duran cranked his 3rd homer in his last 5 games and 6th homer in his last 14 games. Overall, he's got 96 runs, 21 homers, 69 RBIs, 32 stolen bases, and a .295 batting average, okay? Only Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt, Ohtani, and Marcell Ozuna have more total bases this season. So quietly, Jarren Duran is the best hitter in Boston this year. Boy, I'm sweaty, Leonard.
So much.
The highest position player for WAR, Fangraphs WAR, since 2022 is Aaron Judge, 25.6 WAR. Francisco Lindor is the second best with 18.6 WAR. That means Judge is ahead of Lindor by like 8 WAR. Dylan Cruz, MLB home run number 2, 404 feet, 106.9 miles per hour. MLB's second-ranked prospect has 5 hits for the Nationals, and 4 of those have gone for extra bases. Dylan Cruz. Now, here's one for you Mets fans. Pitching for the 3rd straight game, Edwin Diaz locked down the win versus the White Sox with a couple of strikeouts. Now, he earned the save on Thursday in a 3-2 win over the Diamondbacks, striking out 2 in a perfect 9th inning. And yesterday was a much-needed outing for Diaz, who allowed 4 runs on a pair of home runs in his last 2 appearances, both of which the Mets lost. He's now 15 for 21 in save chances with a .419 ERA, a .109 whip, and 56 strikeouts across 38 and 2/3 innings. So he's definitely still striking out batters. But what's up with this .419 ERA? You can't be paid this much money and have such a crappy ERA as a closer, okay? That's just horrible. It should be half of that. All right? Eddie points out that Jackson's brother Ethan Holiday is a senior at Stillwater High School and ranked as the number 1 draft prospect in 2025. The brothers could both go 1-1 overall. That's first round, first pick, okay? Now, the White Sox are fielding a whole lineup with no single player having an OPS over 700, okay? Or an average above 240. Not one single player has an OPS over 700 or an average above 240. That's just ridiculous. Moving over to Victor Scott, who had 94 stolen bases in 132 games last season. He did not start yesterday, but he has started in each of the previous 6 games, reaching base 9 times over that span. Lars Nootbaar shifted over to center field, Tommy Pham in left, and Alec Burleson in right. Connor Norby, since being called up by Miami in 45 plate appearances, he has a .350 batting average, 2 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and 13 runs scored. He leads all players in baseball over this span of the last 45 plate appearances. So Connor Norby, doing good since his call-up. He fueled a 12-run outburst from the Miami offense with another impressive performance from the leadoff spot. He extended his hitting streak in the majors to 11 games, with 10 of them coming since he joined the Marlins roster in mid-August. Over those 10 games, he's hitting .350, 6 doubles, 2 homers, 2 steals, 4 RBI, and 13 runs scored. 23-year-old shortstop Tampa Bay Rays prospect Chandler Simpson had 94 stolen bases in 115 games last season. He now has 94 stolen bases in just 100 games this season after 4 stolen bases yesterday. 80-grade runner from Georgia Tech actually has some similarities to another Rays prospect, Xavier Edwards. He's extreme hit over power hitter. They say he will not develop power. He just hits the ball to the gaps and puts his speed to work. He may not have enough arm for the shortstop, but we'll see. How about Vladdy Jr., the highest OPS over a 40-game span? 1.301 OPS. That's Vladimir Guerrero. That was in 1999 to 2000. Vladimir Guerrero Sr., highest OPS over a 40-game span, 1.301. That was from October 99 to May 2000. Now his kid, Vladdy Jr., one of his many kids, I should say, I mean, he was bound to finally pump out a balls player, right? I mean, I think he has another kid that's actually being looked at in the MLB, or maybe was drafted recently. But either way, we know Vladdy Sr. has a lot of kids. He was bound and determined to get another baseball player in the family, and he sure did with his kid, Vladdy Jr., who has the highest OPS from July 13th to August 29th of this year. It's 1.307. So he even beat his own dad, right? Jesse Winker's last 8 games, 8 for 19, a 471 batting average, 3 doubles, 1 home run, 4 RBIs. Now, if you have Jesse Winker on your bench, it's time to put him in. Now he's batting, since he became a Met, he's batting .314. He did play in 61 games for the Brewers, but due to his injuries and his struggles, well, he said his struggles stemmed from the recoveries of multiple surgeries last offseason, but 2 straight poor seasons can't really be ignored. And he was an all-star for the Reds in 2021 with a 143 OPS plus, and he's still only 30, so there's still some time to turn it around for Jesse Winker. Speaking of the Mets, Laura, Big Al on the prowl, Rotorius, all my Mets family, the Mets are 70 and 64. They have 28 games to go. To get a wild card spot, we have to assume they have to win at least 87 games. Right around 87 games is what it's going to take to get in the playoffs. That means they have to go 17 and 11 the rest of the way. And that also means they cannot afford to lose even 1 game to the White Sox, okay? The pressure is on huge for them to sweep the White Sox right now. The Brewers, they're down Christian Yelich, Brandon Woodruff, Wade Miley, and Devin Williams for 4 months. Plus, they traded Corbin Burns in February, and they currently have the best run differential in all of baseball. If I would have said Genius of the Day, which team has the best run differential, I guarantee the first guesses would be Yankees, then they would be Dodgers, and all of this. Nobody would have guessed the Brewers, but they do. They have the best run differential in all of baseball. How about Lawrence Butler? Over his last 8 games, 406 batting average, 6 home runs, 11 RBI, 10 runs scored, and 2 stolen bases. He hit 3 home runs and is now up to 19 home runs and 12 steals in 342 plate appearances this season. He's on pace for 650 plate appearances, 36 homers, 97 RBIs, 93 runs, and 23 stolen bases. He had his second 3-homer game of the season on Thursday when he went 3 for 4 with 3 home runs, a walk, and 4 total RBIs. Now, we got a report from Jeff Passan that there is a strong expectation that Cole is going to opt out. Can you imagine Cole opting out of a 4-year, $144 million contract? I can't imagine why he thinks he's going to get paid more than that. So, honestly, I just don't see it. What do you guys think? Is Cole going to opt out next year of his 4-year, $144 million contract? He gets paid over $30 million a year. One of the highest paid pitchers in baseball. I highly doubt it. All right. 2 teams that might be interested in Taylor Rogers. So Taylor Rogers is on the waivers. The Giants placed this guy on waivers on Wednesday. There's 2 teams interesting to watch, the Mets and the Red Sox. Boston could pass because they do have Liam Hendricks on his way back, but the Mets could use the help and block other contenders. The then the Mets would also have a bullpen guy for next year. Rogers has been a valuable piece of San Francisco's bullpen this season with a 2.45 ERA and a 1.21 WHIP in 51 and a third innings. The Giants are trying to shed payroll, in case any of you are wondering. Why would they let him go then? They're going to shed payroll, and they will now allow any other team to take him in as long as they're willing to pay the remaining $2 million left on his salary this year and the $12 million he's owed in 2025. So it's not just $2 million, it's another $12 next year. If no other club is willing to take on the additional salary, Rogers will simply remain with the Giants. Now, ESPN is reporting that the Angels have called up Italian native Samuel Aldigueri to the big leagues. He will become the first Italian-born and raised pitcher to play in the major leagues, right? So there you go for your diversity quota. I hope he's good. Love everybody. Appreciate you all. We really appreciate you coming into the chat room today, and we should thank each and every one of you. Laura, Mary, Rotorius, Turd, Tommy Johnston, Stevie O, Eddie Heckman, Danny Fuller, Rotorius, Data Premier, Chris Gallo, Penny, Chris and Debbie, and Danny and Penny, Big Al on the prowl, and of course my biggest fan, Lenny, who will be here with me tomorrow.
Cambridge.
Oh, and Chris from Cambridge. I didn't mean to forget you. How could I? You're the best. We love having you call in, Chris, so keep it up. Also, where's King Hap today? Where's Boston Paul? I want to see this matchup. These two are facing off in the head-to-head for a playoff spot. They're in the playoffs now, so whoever loses gets kicked out of the playoffs, and both have pretty good teams. I do think Boston Paul has a slightly better team than King Hap, but don't tell him I said that. Okay. Lady and the Legend tomorrow, 9 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. And Eddie Heckman and Teresa Heckman, we love you and we appreciate you. Enjoy your day. See you tomorrow.